This morning we are here with a foreign guest whose name is Haohao Xu. He's our guest because although he's a visiting professor here at the Politecnico di Torino for this unfortunately locked down months, but he's coming from South China University of Technology. South China University of Technology is a magnificent partner of the Politecnico di Torino. We have been working with them for a long while, especially in projects and exhibitions and education coordinated by the so-called China Room. China Room is the Politecnico in Turin special office for Chinese affairs and projects, especially in the architectural domain, but not only in the architectural domain, of course, coordinated by our delegate of the director for the Chinese affairs, who is Michele Bonino. And Michele Bonino is one of the editors of the book we are today presenting with the courtesy of Haohao. The book has been recently published by Birkhäuser in Basel in English. Its title is The City After Chinese New Towns, Spaces and Imaginaries from Contemporary Urban China. And the editors have been Michele Bonino, in fact, and then Francesca Governa, Maria Paola Repellino, and Angelo Sampieri. So all of them coming from the Politecnico, but dealing with these incredible phenomena in particular for our Western eyes, that made China, as it is said in the book, the largest construction site in the world in the past 30 years. Strategies are very, very complex. Quantities are very, very complicated to say. Probably this is our first step, the most important and significant step where to start a discussion with Haohao. Quantities are extraordinary, probably are the first thing that comes out of the Chinese situation, but probably the book helps us in exploring something more than mere quantities. What do you think, Haohao?
Yes, thank you. Thanks a lot for the invitation, and I think it's a perfect time to read books. So also thanks a lot for Professor Michele to give me this book to have a read. A little bit more complementary with my background because I knew some of the authors very well, like Professor Francesca Frassotati, one of the authors in this very theoretical articles of this book. She used to work in China, and then she's an expert about the Chinese rural development, the morphology and the background, the institutional reasons. She wrote a marvelous book about the rural Chinese development several years ago, and I'm very happy to see she's keep working on that, and also together with Michele, they are more concerned about the new town. This is a kind of semi-rural, semi-urban area in the Chinese background. As you said, I think also like some of the Italian reviewers have said, when people are talking about China, especially the people from outside world, usually people have the kind of imagination. It's only based on figures, some areas and figures, and it's enormous figures sometimes give you kind of nonsense to make a linkage between the real spaces and the human behavior and the real life with the spatial development. So I think this book somehow is help you to reestablish this kind of linkage between the imagination. It's a kind of academic imagination or political imagination with the real life happened in China. This is one part I think is quite interesting. Another thing is due to this pandemic things, everybody need to be locked into the room. So when we look down back this 20 years very rapid urban development in China, although there are a lot of critics, say, among the disciplines about how we need to improve the planning, improve the architecture, the quantity, and everything. But now I think we are facing a completely new topic that in the future, if we need to face that really completely different world of people who have the relationship, how can we improve this into this new development? Because this kind of new town development not stopped, it's still ongoing, and many of them probably still have big spaces to become better. So this is a big challenge and also a big opportunity for us. I think this is, for both us, I think this is a very good reason to read and to rethink the Chinese development. Yes.
Definitely, because it will be difficult, and it will be part of the discussion of the academic and probably of the political discussion to discuss what will happen after the lockdown, after the crisis, after the pandemic crisis in these enormous cities, because the quantitative problem, the quantitative issue is still under our eyes. In the book, the data from Beijing are cited, and just for Western readers, I recall that now the metropolitan area of Beijing, the capital of China, is something like 80,000 square kilometers, where the largest Western town we can imagine, such as Paris or Los Angeles, have metropolitan areas of something like 12,000 square kilometers. It means that we are on a different planet, and probably questions like social distancing or political issues about social distancing will be much more difficult to be faced in the next future in these cities. And the book helps us in these kind of reasonment, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I'm quite interested with the cases selected into the book because it selected 3 cases from Beijing, the mid China Zhengzhou, and also the southern part is Zhaoqing. Somehow it's kind of a reference of the 3 different types of the Chinese new town. Beijing, the case of Tongzhou, is very, say, important administration deposition places. It's somehow a little bit like the very first new town in Shanghai, the economic center, because somehow the cases that drag a lot of attentions, both from the centralized level and also the local level, which means a lot of energies and some special policies and some different way of looking and developing that is based on this kind of cases. So it's quite a unique one. And also the area you just mentioned somehow is ready. It's yeah, so we just usually have some interesting comparison that the city like Torino, if you compare with some of the Chinese cities, is probably just like a district.
Yep.
So which means yes. So which means it's a kind of a collection of districts, a collection of Torino create a sort of metropolitan area in China. So it's giving me some sense that you need to think in a different way to look back or look upon the future of the cities. This is the one case. Another case in southern China is right in the opposite way, because usually in the southern part, people are doing things in a more practical way, or we have to say they probably a little bit more cautious about the step-by-step development. So somehow the new development, if you look at the map of the Chinese, see the official Chinese new town development area, in southern part there are few. There's only few cases of that,
right.
But they are not developed as the foreseen. They are still wait for some rapid things. But the surrounding area and the other part of the southern part has already have some a kind of new town development. It's not the official centralized or kind of say political new town, but they have some special functions, special development related with some former planners' idea, former concept of the urban planning. And then somehow now we look back at that, we say, okay, this is a good time. It's a good moment to make them as a connection with each other and make a sort of new town area. So this is the case in southern part, and which I am more familiar because I was coming from the south. And in the case of Zhengzhou, I think it's right in the mid.
In the mid.
So, yeah, geometrically this is the center of China, but also in the time of this kind of new development, it's also in the late of the 1990s and the beginning of the 20th century. So already have 20 years of development, but has some critics at the very beginning because of the, say, this irregular shape of the building made by some, say, architects or some planners, and also have some unforeseen problems of the people who living there, the real estate, and also the development. There's a lot of critics, but I think the interesting part to look at those cases is because they are right in the middle. They are not exactly the top-down policy production. It's also not the bottom-up, say, autonomous development of things, but they are somehow get some bonus from the centralized level. So we have this, say, kind of policy to give you this chance. Then now we'll see what happened. You need to figure out how to find your own characteristics, your own way of development, and somehow you also need to trace back the locality of the places, because of different places in China, it's so huge. Places are so different. So you need to find your own characters, to find your own resources to develop them. So I think this give you a very solid and very specific way of understanding and reading the Chinese new development. This is much more interesting than you just read an article about, say, figures and say, give you some numbers and you say, oh my God, this is so huge. So we leave it apart. So I think this is the interesting part when I read the book. Exactly, I agree with your ideas.
Yeah, because probably, of course, this is the destiny of distant readers. Probably we smash our impression of Chinese cities on these incredible photographs or videos that come from China. And for us, people accustomed to live in a city of 800,000 people, not that big. Obviously, they all look the same. But as you are saying, this book can help you in separating, in distinguishing different kind of developments, which are not the same, of course, we should have suspect, which are not the same on such a huge territory, such an immense territory, and this is extraordinary. So probably what is the final question that a book like this can pose, can make, is a rather radical question. But can we still call them cities, as we did with Rome, London, Moscow? I mean, big cities, of course, big cities. Los Angeles, New York. Are they still cities or metropolis, such as in the 20th century we've learned to call them, or they are a brand new entity? What do you think?
Okay, this is quite a difficult question, but I try to answer you in a different way. Still, I think if I give some comments or some supplements for this group of authors. They are very good authors, and in the future, if there are more people are interested on this, the phenomenon and also the issues of the Chinese urban development to discuss if we still can call them cities, I think to learn or to reading the Chinese cities first from the institutional or from a kind of era view, world view of that, to see the background of the Chinese urban development, I think is very, very important. And in the same time, this era view somehow give you a kind of desensitiveness of the perception of the landform or the land itself. It's a kind of missing depth of the land or the landform. So this is also my personal interest. If you're talking about the problematic of the Chinese new development, the new town development, perhaps it's also interesting to see from another way of mapping, if you could trace the different people's working, the community, the bottom up. This is also, it's a way of different viewpoint. I think I always recommend another book. It's about the spatial anthropology way of looking at the cities. This is also my colleagues in China. We are working a lot with also Professor Francesca. I think it could have a kind of a supplement way of this book to read from another sense that how the Chinese cities still could be called as cities because the people are citizens, the people are the urban life. But obviously, I think for the future, this urban life will have some changes. So we always said in the late 20 years development that we use this online shopping say destroy the very traditional say clothing or some shop things, but now we said we still needed experience the commercial way of cinemas or some kind of restaurant, but now we find that restaurant and cinemas also need to be closed. So how can we still finalize or call ourselves still working in a city? Because some of my colleagues, they complained to me. They said now they have to drive 2 hours outside of the city, find a place nowhere, and no people. It's not a heritage place. It's not a park. It's just a place that was nowhere, and just to have a little walk. This is probably will be a kind of common sense of the urbanized or some new town or some cities in the future. I think it's a new topics. We need to rethink about. I think this is, I don't know, this is our job. This is probably our opportunity to do it.
And this book can help us to start this new path. So at least here, following Chinese researchers such as Michele and the group of China Room do with you and your colleagues in China. Thank you, Haohao. It was great pleasure to have you on screen and hopefully in person in a while. Thank you very much. Thank you
so much.